Hello, everyone. Great to be live with you. Well, new video of a Zoom meeting involving the executive director of Project Veritas has leaked as he was explaining this week the board's side of the fallout between James O'Keefe and his own board. Some believe that he is expressing lies in this Zoom meeting involving Project Veritas whistleblowers, including me. We're going to play some of those sound bites today for the first time. But another new development, about a dozen Project Veritas whistleblowers has come out with a video standing behind James O'Keefe. A lot of support for James right now. Here is that video, which is going viral today.
I'm the CBS Detroit whistleblower with Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the CNN whistleblower for Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
HHS vaccine nurse whistleblower with Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the Department of Homeland Security whistleblower from Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the HHS whistleblower exposing government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking. I stand with James O'Keefe.
I am the Hasbro CRT whistleblower for Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
Postal Service whistleblower for Project Veritas, and I stand with James.
I was one of the Project Veritas Facebook insiders, and I stand by James O'Keefe.
I blew the whistle on Facebook, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
And I blew the whistle on Pfizer to Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
United Healthcare whistleblower for Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I blew the whistle on Tegna, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I blew the whistle on ESPN and Disney, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I was the Project Veritas whistleblower for Google, and I stand by James O'Keefe.
My name is April Moss.
My name is Carrie Porch.
This is Jody O'Malley.
My name is Aaron Stevenson.
My name is Tara Rodas.
My name is David Johnson.
My name is Richard Hopkins.
My name is Ryan Hartwig.
My name's Cassandra Spencer.
My name is Melissa McAtee.
I'm Sean Stagg.
My name is Zach Voorhees.
My name is Brett Mauser.
I am Trevor Adams.
And for Truth Bombs today, I am thrilled to have one of those whistleblowers, CBS whistleblower April Moss, join me again for Truth Bombs.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, what a week.
It's been a lot. It's been really intense.
Really overwhelming for the people who are so closely tied to Project Veritas, having had their stories covered, such as you and me. And so we're going to get into the meeting that happened this week involving Project Veritas and the executive director trying to give the board's side. And let's see how sincere he really is, what's really going on. Before we play those sound bites, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Thousands of Americans are turning to this amazing sleeping pill. It was formulated with 7 key nutrients to support deep, refreshing, and restorative sleep, as well as a calm and peaceful state of mind during the day with its 7 premium research-backed nutrients. Every serving is designed to help put your mind and body at ease while helping support the deep sleep that you crave, including L-theanine, melatonin, magnesium, lemon balm extract, chamomile extract, passion flower extract, vitamin B6. These 7 key ingredients provide very powerful support for sleep, deep, refreshing, restorative sleep. Get your bottle 51% off and reclaim your good night's sleep. If you order today, you'll receive several free bonuses before the half off sale ends. Go to that link down in my description, ivorysleeps.com. That is ivorysleeps.com. If you're on your phone, click the more button. You're going to see that link. It is good to be sponsored by natural, healthy supplements like that instead of Pfizer. And right now, a lot of people are wondering if Project Veritas is now sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah, that's the going, I guess, rumor. We have no evidence for that, of course. And we only talk about the facts. So I'm excited to really just get into the facts today about the latest developments.
So here's the big question that a lot of people have after Quite a few Project Veritas whistleblowers were invited to a Project Veritas Zoom meeting this week on Wednesday. I was a part of that meeting. And somebody, a source, recorded this meeting, and now we have sound bites. It was a 2-hour meeting. I want to show you, this is where people are saying they believe that the executive director of Project Veritas, Daniel Strack, was lying, because if we look at the board meeting notes here, it says indefinite suspension of Mr. O'Keefe as CEO without compensation. Now, James went in his departure speech earlier this week, said, yeah, they literally cut off my pay. And then in the executive director's meeting with us whistleblowers on Wednesday, he said, no, he is being paid. It's a paid leave. So let's play that soundbite now. Let's see. So this is Wednesday, the top one there? Yep.
This situation was going to become an explosion, but just pick your explosion. This is the one we were dealt with, right? So after that board meeting, really that was the last time I've spoken to James outside of a couple of text messages here and there. The board put him on paid time off suspension, which is not ousting, which is not taking the CEO title, which is not taking the chairman of the board title away, which is not firing him. Obviously, that's been reported that way, that he's been fired, he's been ousted, he doesn't have a job. Suspension is a very specific term that boards do while they investigate things. If you Google 501c3 financial problems, the first paragraph will say, in any one of the articles you find, the founders, might have done something wrong. They're suspended, pending investigation.
What's your reaction?
Well, number one, Project Veritas has always had auditors. They've always been under audit every year. They've had audits. So my question is, why are they just now bringing these financial claims forward and saying that it's basically James' misappropriation of funds or malfeasance when they've always been under audit? And some of the big financial claims that they were most upset about, which was a Christmas party and things like that. I mean, board members attended those events. They came to these events. So that's concerning to me. And it's concerning to me that now we're in a situation where it's James's exit video versus all of this damage control that we're seeing from Dan Strack and the Project Veritas board. Trying to dispel what they say is misinformation or disinformation that is floating around online, when the American people can clearly see exactly what's going on. When you tell the founder of their own organization that they are stripped of their ability to hire and fire, I mean, Dan said it right in the video, he's still CEO. Well, sure, he has that title according to the documents, but it also, in further documents, states that it took away his ability to basically run the company.
Right. Okay. So that brings us actually to the next soundbite, which, by the way, you were not a part of this Zoom meeting. So you're hearing these soundbites from Dan Strack, executive director of Project Veritas, for the first time. Now, he's very new to this organization, and he's not a board member, but he's, I guess, the number 2 under James, if I'm understanding this correctly. So he was talking about kind of what led up to this fallout in early February between James and the board. And he was saying it seemed like James and the board members were speaking different languages, not understanding each other. Here it is.
But when I spoke to James, he was very frustrated that these things, that people weren't listening to him. And I asked him, hey, can you send me exactly the list you're looking at that you want to talk about? And it was completely different from what the rest of the business development team was looking at and talking about. I bring this up, and this is not something we've sort of talked about externally, but I feel like you guys sort of deserve to hear it from me. And I appreciate that maybe I'm being recorded and this is going to get leaked and whatever. So I am sensitive to my words, but I trust you all, and I hope that that we can keep this internal. But the world is what the world is. So that next step, I said, James, that's not what the Devo team is thinking about. And I think you guys are really like talking over each other and not even saying the same, you're not having the same conversation. And he said, wow, maybe I miscommunicated there. That next day sort of led into a really terrible sequence of events that people really started to complain in a very robust way. Lots of people started raising their hands and essentially said that this has to stop. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. I've used this analogy internally many times. There's been a layer of gasoline in many ways on headquarters floor, waiting for a spark, and that happened. This wasn't gonna. I've been with large organizations. I was really with one company my entire life. I've started a few different small businesses, which is completely different than my previous career. But I've worked in lots of different groups, and I could tell from the day I came in, the first week I came in, and even my interview process, I knew that this was going to be a real challenge from a behavioral and personality perspective. And my role was really to try to manage the people to allow James to be the strategic visionary leader that he is. And that's the best and highest use of his time.
What's your reaction?
So it's interesting because he talks about how when he first came into the company, he realized that there were clashes in personality, or he could identify those. I'm curious, were those items discussed with James? Did he say, hey, listen, I can tell that you have a little bit of a different personality than I do. Was this something that it was a communication between the two? We don't know those things exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For those who subscribe to Project Veritas, many of you received a letter in an email, which I want to bring up because I received it. And I'm going to just read a little excerpt, if that's okay, Ivory.
Yeah.
The very bottom paragraph of the letter says, "We hope that you might continue to give us a chance. We can't stress how separate the board's role is from daily operations here at Project Veritas." They're saying that because so many people are coming after the board for telling James. First, they told him, you should have some paid time off. And while he was on his paid time off, supposedly 2 weeks, they had board meetings and decided to basically remove him from his position. So they're trying to do damage control here by saying the board's role is from daily operations here, is not really, it's very separate from daily operations. We're still grinding and pursuing stories of great public importance. In either case, thank you so much for your support in the past, and we hope we might regain your trust if you'll give us a chance. And the thing is, the American people will not give them a chance. They do not trust Project Veritas. Project Veritas has committed suicide by how they have treated James. And the only way that we have known the truth about a lot of this stuff is from James' own video that he posted on Monday, to which many Project Veritas staffers heard James's side of the story for the very first time and were shocked by some of the admissions that James made in his video because that had not been disclosed to the staff. So I can't stress enough how important this is. The only people who were in that meeting, that 6-hour meeting where James was berated for hours on end and told what a horrible person and leader he is, are the board and Dan Strack and James. And nobody has had access to that video yet. And until we have some transparency on that and we see that video and we hear more, I don't think the American people should care at all what Project Veritas does from this point forward, because James O'Keefe is Project Veritas, and they have chosen to go wherever James O'Keefe goes. So this idea or this ego I'm seeing from people within Project Veritas, the board, whoever's writing these letters, they're delusional in thinking that they could actually still make a difference, because in very effect of what they've done to James O'Keefe, they have lost the trust of the people.
Definitely. And I actually brought some of this up to Daniel Strack in that meeting on Wednesday, and we'll play that soundbite too. But this next soundbite, he's talking about basically it wasn't just the board. Employees were complaining about James, he's saying. Here's the next soundbite.
The employees were complaining before financial stuff has been going on. There's going to be a look back on books and records. I believe the law is 7 years.
Right.
So, there's going to be issues probably from 7 years ago. But it wasn't highlighted in a way that it was after the employee complaints. Part of the I should better say, part of the employee complaints uncovered that helicopter donor thing.
Interesting. So employees complained about certain financial things aside from the CFO bringing up.
I wasn't part of. I'm going to call him a whistleblower. Them a whistleblower talking about this donor thing. I wasn't part of that. That was communicated directly to the CFO.
Which just brings us back to what you said earlier, is that they get audited every year.
Right.
And now Daniel Strack is saying, no, but we still got to look back 7 years.
That's insane. And what's further insane is that you do not come into an organization and say, we are going to take the founder of this company and we're going to put him in this role as the front man, as the theatrical person, and then we're actually going to run the whole company without him having a say over it. That's like, as a parent, Ivory, how is it any different than I have a baby and the government wants to take my baby away and say, well, we know what's best for your child and we're going to put it in our government schools and all of that. But you can still be the parent, but we're making all the decisions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so this whole idea that we can remove James, and I think what's the most hard, and I love so many people that are at Project Veritas. What's most hard is that you have all of these people who have worked very, very diligently to put forth great, wonderful work. And it seems as if there's a narrative being presented to these employees that has convinced them that they are Project Veritas and could still thrive without James O'Keefe. Now, I hope they're seeing on social media that that's never going to happen.
Yeah, the reputation's just been destroyed. And Daniel Strack was saying in that meeting, but content is king, which I agree. If something newsworthy enough is exposed, then truth seekers will be grateful for that content regardless of reputation of who's putting it out, you would hope. But few people actually operate that way. People who hate CNN will not watch what CNN puts out no matter what. People who hate Fox News will not watch what Fox News puts out no matter what. And sadly now, I think that's where Project Veritas is at. And now they've had left-wing Americans hating them forever. Now they got right-wing Americans hating them too. Who's going to watch? So that's the issue. Daniel Strack said in that meeting, so, James came out with his statement on Monday, walking in, grabbing his things and saying, bye, peace out. Daniel said, quote, Monday was the worst day of my life outside of losing a family member. To see James do that. I think he knew that James just, that was the nail in the coffin for Project Veritas. But he's not saying, Daniel Strack's not saying that. This next soundbite is kind of what you've been addressing with Dan talking about just making James like the strategic visionary and not having James's hands in so many things of his own organization. And then our friend, fellow whistleblower, Jody O'Malley, goes on to duke it out with Daniel. She was not happy with what she was hearing. So we love you, Jody. Here it is.
He is the chairman of the board, and then he has an executive director. There is no CEO. He's a visionary leader, but he doesn't manage the day-to-day. He's not in people's faces in legal or HR or admin or any of that stuff. So you have the person who's managing those things, as opposed to the strategic visionary who actually is the one who's steering the boat, saying, hey, this is the direction we're going in, and everybody row in this direction. That's what James does best.
Right. But right now, as it stands, he was all of that.
Correct, which is
okay. So I heard correctly.
Which is clearly unsustainable.
So I did hear correctly. So all of a sudden, now he has a new guy coming in and looking at a completely different vision of maybe it wasn't discussed with him. Maybe you weren't upfront and said, this is how I see the organization going. This is how I see what you should be doing. This is also the personality complex that I'm going to have to address. And this is how I'm going to handle them. Do you think I'm still the right fit for this company?
The conflict was not between James and Dan Strack. The conflict was James's actions that the board made action. I didn't do any of that.
Okay. So now James is out of town. He comes back. He's into this 6-hour bitch session with everybody, and then saying, you got to take 2 weeks off. And then the CFO, I'm sorry, did I not hear correctly that his wedding was supposed to happen in 2020? And we're talking about a $14,000 jet.
That's not your sequence of events is off. When you do cursory review, those are some of the things that came in after the board meeting, after there was found out there was some issues and there was a cursory review done. And that's why a third party is going to come in to actually dig in.
Okay, but that's public. Right? That's one of the grievances that the board
some of the things
had.
that the board brought up, yeah.
Correct. So of course James is going to be like, no. And quite frankly, I'll just be straight up blunt. I do not have a good feeling about all of this. I do not think Pfizer infiltrated. I don't know what happened, but there's no way that James will want to even come back. His board, in my opinion, has been extremely compromised. We had employees that had grievances that all came together to sign this freaking letter that got leaked. And now here we are. So I'll wrap it up. Here we are, 2023. We need whistleblowers more than ever. This was the movement that James wanted to take the direction of this company, was to increase the whistleblowers. You say, Dan, I'm sorry, dude, but you said that you'll help us. We met you a year ago. I've reached out to you. Maybe you didn't get the message. I don't know. But now I'm meeting you right now after my friend got shafted the way he did. People want to come up and say, oh, he shouldn't have came out public. You wouldn't have come out public if people were making all these accusations against you. He loves those undercover journalists. That is who he is. He doesn't want to see this mission stop. But as far as I'm concerned, like PV, done to me. So that's all I got to say.
I'm sorry you feel that way. David.
Ooh, don't mess with Jody O'Malley.
Right.
We love her. Yeah. I'm really proud of her for saying what she said, Ivory. This is the first time I'm seeing this, and I'm proud of her. I will say this, Dan has been with the company for a year now, and we had a Zoom call meeting with all of us whistleblowers, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months ago, trying to make the whistleblower program a little bit more united, trying to, really help the people who have come forward so we can strengthen it and encourage more people to come forward. Nothing was ever done. We kind of said, hey, this is what we need, or this is what we'd like to see, or whatever. Nothing's been done. And I think you're seeing the frustration from Jody. She's like, why should I trust what you're telling me? Because you haven't had my back. Who's had our backs? James O'Keefe has had our back. And I posted on, my social media platforms that I remember the night before I blew the whistle on CBS. I was very scared, but I knew that I needed to do it. And James said to me on the phone, I have 4 kids. I was scared, Ivory, that perhaps I could get sued. We could lose our house. I didn't know what was going to happen. And James said, I promise you, April, if they come after you, they have to get through me first. And I will not let anything happen to you. I, as a whistleblower, trusted him. The whistleblowers that have come forward and shared their support and their stand for James. They came forward because they saw that James had already been in jail. They saw that James wasn't afraid of being, he was, battering ram at his door. The FBI came after him. He is not afraid. And that's what courage is contagious. His courage allowed us to be brave and come forward and expose the corruption that we saw within our companies. And so nobody else from Project Veritas is going to have our backs the way that James O'Keefe does. That's just the bottom line. That's just bottom line. That's just how it is. So I don't see how they can think that Project Veritas will still be successful without James.
Yeah, it's hard to see whistleblowers coming to Project Veritas. Maybe they'll attempt the same sort of undercover things without whistleblowers. Those undercover meetings like the one with Pfizer that went so well. A big scoop as far as directed evolution. But I really think that this is, I really think this is it. It's over for Project Veritas. They've got a lot of donor money right now. The board's going to siphon that money away, live off of it. And donations are not going to continue coming in. It's going to be over, I think. And so I brought this up to Daniel Strack in that meeting on Wednesday, talked about the only way that I see Project Veritas actually surviving and whether the board is willing to compromise for their own survival, and got his reaction.
The only way that PV would regain its reputation is if it gets James back. And the only way I can imagine James would go back is if all this leadership that kicked him out left. Are you guys going to make that sort of compromise?
I don't think the board is leaving.
Okay, then I guess it's over.
I don't want to speak on the board's behalf. If James asked me to leave, I would leave. I've been asked to stay.
Not
David,
by James.
I talked to James before this all went down, and I said, I can go home if you want me to. And he said, I don't want you to go home. And I said, I don't want to go home either, James.
Do you know whether he's wanting the board to leave?
I believe he would like the board to leave. Yes.
Good, David.
You said,
yeah. So James asked the board clearly to resign. And the fact that Dan said that even if it meant saving the organization, the board would not resign, that tells you exactly where their motives are. If you care about the organization, then you need to support James. And all of this fluff, these letters that they send out and their, statements that they make, saying that James is still in charge and we don't want James to leave. Right, you don't want James to leave because you know that the American people have had it with you, and you have to hold on to his name in order to continue any credibility you have. James is already announced he's doing his own thing now. So, the American people need to, again, look at the facts that have been presented, and they have to make that decision for themselves. It's basically at this point James's word versus what the board is saying, and the American people trust James O'Keefe.
Yeah, he put out another tweet about midnight last night, showing him working on his next project. He added a new email address, O'KeefeTips@protonmail.com. So I'm sure the tips are now redirecting to him, which we all saw this coming. He's just going to pick up where he left off on his own again from scratch and rebuild probably quite quickly.
And on that note, Ivory, I think that the people at Project Veritas that are still there, who are caught in this horrible position right now, where they're at this organization that they love and they love James, but if they're smart, they'll go where James goes. And I mean, that's where the American people are going to put their faith and hope and trust in.
Yeah, unless they do prefer to work separate from him. I just think they need to, because if it is a clash of personalities, I believe that I still feel that everyone within that organization had the same end goal.
Right.
They just had, I do feel that it was a lot of clashing personalities. And if so, well, then hopefully everyone will continue on the mission separately. But I do think that everyone needs to rebrand away from Project Veritas now.
Yeah.
People are not going to trust the Project Veritas name without James O'Keefe. So whoever is still there, I think, is eventually going to have to leave and go work on their own. I love independent journalism. Or join another organization and continue that mission of uncovering truth and shedding light where the corporate media refuses to. With that being said, I had one other question for Dan Strack in that meeting on Wednesday, because he was talking about, he kept talking about these financial issues. And so I was like, okay, so is this an IRS thing where it was like, like you said, it's a big he said, as far as James's spending. But Daniel
it's not just James's spending, Ivory, because the board was still over James. He had a chief financial officer. It's not like, I guess I just feel like all of these financial claims are completely BS. It's absolute BS.
When you look at what they're calling out in the bullet points, it really does look like some BS.
I mean, it's laughable. And as for a nonprofit organization, and again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an expert on nonprofits, but it's perfectly legal what he was doing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, see, is this you protecting James from the IRS, Dan? I'm just trying to get to the truth here. What's really going on? Because I know, like I said on my previous show, I'm a new business owner now that I'm independent, and I know as an LLC owner, there are rules that I have to follow with the IRS in regards to where I put my money, how I spend my money, that it has to go into a certain bank account before, not the other bank account. Business expenses are here, personal expenses are here, and there are rules. And mine's an LLC. James's is a 501c3. You and I don't fully know the rules of 501c3. So I said, let's ask Dan, what are you just trying to protect him from the IRS?
It seemed you were indicating that the reason you guys did all this was for legal reasons, as in what James could go to jail or face fines from the government if you guys don't investigate and handle these things internally as far as financials?
I think probably one of the biggest, I'm not a lawyer, but I think one of the biggest things that the board is trying to protect is the 501c3 status.
Yes, that's all he had to say on that.
So my question again is, why? Why now? Why now is this all being brought up?
Why right after the biggest story that they had broken about Pfizer,
right?
So it is suspicious.
And also, I mean, it was proven before that James was bringing in 200 times the amount of money over the years, continued to bring in huge donations.
Oh, yeah.
So these little $14,000 several years ago, a charter plane flight, nobody cares about James going on a chartered plane flight. In fact, I would think he deserves it after all of the hard work that he does.
Yes.
Especially in relation to the amount of money that he brings into this organization. And and I know he works nonstop. Dan Strack has stated that he is the hardest working person he's ever seen. So again, we don't know motive. We have to continue asking questions, and this is far from being over.
Okay, the last thing I want to get your comment on this, a screenshot we have of the messages. I guess this was Matthew Tierman, the board member, who had an exchange with one of the employees. You had some insight on this exchange.
I actually don't know if it was Matt Tierman or if it was Joe, the president. I'm not sure. Do you know for a fact it was Matt?
I don't know for a fact. That's what I heard.
Okay. I'm not exactly sure, but yes, there was an exchange between somebody who was in a position of authority on the board and a undercover journalist asking basically, if you can help us, oust James, You might get a raise. I mean, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And here's my question. And a lot of sources have told me this, Ivory. I've never said it publicly, but I'll just go ahead and say it here. A lot of people are wondering if Matthew Tierman is jealous of James O'Keefe or had a jealousy issue towards James O'Keefe. And it is a power grab, an attempt at taking over the organization from him. Multiple sources have told me that.
Wow. Well, what was said at the bottom of that screenshot, hopefully James falls in line, makes me think they did not want James to leave. They just wanted him to fall in line with their mission.
But it's not their mission. It's James founded this.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it is his vision always.
Yes.
He's the founder. So if you have a problem, you walk away.
Exactly. And here's the point. It would be completely different, Ivory, if, for example, someone else founded the company, they ran it for a bunch of years, and then they wanted to resign or go retire, and they then selected James to be the new CEO, and James was just a CEO for a couple of years, and all this happened.
Yeah.
Then you could see. But you don't take an organization away from the very person that founded it in their basement with no money and with a proven track record of delivering incredible stories for the American people and for the world.
Right. I agree. I know that Project Veritas was working on some pretty heavy, important stories with whistleblowers when this all happened. So I really hope that those stories can still get told.
Yeah.
I know part of that Wednesday Zoom meeting was people saying, where do I go now to get my story out? And, there's quite a few independent outlets right now because most people don't trust the corporate news. There's a reason why these stories have to get told by Project Veritas. The corporate news, there's certain topics they don't want to shed light on.
Right.
That's the importance of Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, is that they shed light where the corporate news refuses, and they use tactics that the corporate news doesn't have the balls or money to do, I think. Corporate news is more and more cash strapped. They don't have money to fund these projects that take time.
Yeah.
The DHS and HHS whistleblowers who uncovered these kids being trafficked across our U.S. border, we've heard about the unaccompanied minors. Where did they end up? James O'Keefe got to the bottom of it. It took 9 months. 9 months of boots on the ground, of his Spanish-speaking undercover journalists going out and talking to these kids, talking to these so-called relatives who were hosting the kids, weren't relatives at all. And it's really horrifying that we see these children trafficked into the hands of total strangers, in some cases criminals. Really important stories that were being told by Project Veritas. The corporate news doesn't invest their resources at length like that. And so we really need to continue that mission, whether it be, hopefully it's James and whatever skeleton crew is left from Project Veritas, whether they work separately now, I hope they all continue that mission. I want to continue towards that mission myself. I'm now starting from scratch. I can't do 9-month investigations right now. I can't afford it, but hopefully someday I'll build up to that. It's important to me to work alone so that I can, pursue the mission of truth with my independent vision, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes for certain people, it's better to work alone.
Yeah.
And, but I wish the best for all parties involved. And shout out to James's new tip line, O'Keefe Tips at protonmail.com. Let's check the comment section and see what you guys think. How are people reacting? JJ, our director, is sorting through. You guys are saying Ivory Hecker versus Laura Loomer. Lauren, what's her name?
Laura Loomer.
Laura Loomer. Foxy Boxing. Should we duke it out, me and her? I have not met her, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, she's great. I like her a lot.
Oh, you've met her?
Yes, she's
Shout
great.
out to Laura Lerner. Okay, quote, no future whistleblower should go to PV. They will more than likely be sold out. Yes, trust in PV has just crumbled.
Yeah.
Quote, who would whistle blow to an org that will boot the org's founder? Right.
And you know, that's a great point, right? That's what we're trying to get to the heart of, is how egotistical of them to still think that they can still continue to do good things, and that the American people will still have any trust in what they're doing when this is how they treat the founder.
Totally. Okay, what else? Quote, due to the Delta's dismal midterm grades, Warmer gleefully expels them from Faber and nullifies their local draft boards that they have lost their student deferments. I think you're speaking a different language to me. Can you understand what that person
No, I think it was, it's like almost, is that like a bot that just, you know, random words?
What's that new bot that writes things? Okay, so the quote, the elites worked their way in there to destroy it from inside when the time came. Yeah, we were talking about this on my show yesterday. I was like, you know, we don't have evidence that Pfizer infiltrated, but look at how we do have evidence of Pfizer infiltrating every other media outlet since the pandemic. So why wouldn't they just secretly tell however many board members, here's a pile of cash if you're willing to wreak havoc on this organization?
Yeah, I mean, we most likely might not ever find that out, right? Or it's going to take time to find that out. But we have to keep asking questions. Why this? I mean, when the allegations of the financials came out, they're laughable.
Right.
So are you kidding me? Are people really going to take you seriously ever again? And really, if you're that upset about spending $14,000 on a Christmas party, well, I'm pretty sure the board members were there enjoying that Christmas party.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but for an organization like Project Veritas's, that's nothing to spend on a Christmas party. I mean, that amount of money is nothing.
When they brought in $22 million in 2020.
Yeah. So this is like insane.
Quote, they are trying to cash in on his hard work. You can't buy integrity like James.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that comment. They are trying to cash in on the hard work and the foundation that James O'Keefe laid.
I smell a Pfizer. You know, people are now spelling Project Veritas. Instead of a V in front of Veritas, it's PF.
PF.
Project
Veritas.
Like Pfizer. Yeah. They like your dress, April. So do I.
Thanks, guys.
Love it. Summertime in February.
Yes, I know. It's hot here in Texas.
It feels like summer in Texas. Come down to Texas. It's better here. Quote, can legal action be taken against the board of Project Veritas? We have evidence of the lying and malfeasance. I'm certain if the board take the rest of donor money for themselves as they shut down PV.
Well, okay, so that's a good question. It's again, we're not lawyers. Irene and I are not lawyers, but if they continue to keep wanting to contact, like, for example, the whistleblowers, because here's the thing, and this is where I think it's fishy. If a board member reaches out and says, hey, we want to have a Zoom call with you, that's fishy. That's not part of the board member's job to contact.
That just happened this week, didn't it?
Oh, it just happened today. Today.
One of the board members wants to meet with the whistleblowers.
Right. Okay, so here's the thing. The whistleblowers, in order for Project Veritas to continue to be effective and continue to thrive, Ivory, is for us to be united and for us to feel supported, and also proving that we have successful stories. Like, Ivory, you've turned out, you have a huge success story. I have a huge success story. Others within Project Veritas who have blown the whistle have amazing success stories post blowing the whistle. That's important to communicate to people, that you don't need to be afraid. The American people will have your back, and so will this united group of whistleblowers.
Yeah.
And if they can disrupt or distort the thinking of the whistleblowers to say, hey, listen, you're just believing some disinformation right now. That's fishy to me. Because you're smart, I'm smart. I only want to look at the facts, Ivory, and so do you, because you're a great journalist. And the facts are that they have literally taken down this organization and crumbled the credibility of Project Veritas in the way they've handled James O'Keefe. And so now they're trying to do damage control. Can we get a hold of the whistleblowers? Can we talk to them? The fact of the matter is, I don't want to hear what anybody has to say unless they're going to release the 6 hours where they berated James, and we can actually hear that. Because right now, there's no point in talking anymore. It's James's final goodbye video, and it's all of these statements that Project Veritas continues to put out to save face.
That's true. I agree with that. Let's see these comments. Quote, if the board members that booted James actually had anything tangible to boot him with, they would have released it by now. The fact that they haven't proves to me they don't have anything. Right. He ordered black cars. Well, he's got to get around somehow.
Well, that, and he is a public figure.
Should it have been a white car? You know, we use white cars in corporate.
And honestly, I don't care one bit how many black cars James O'Keefe wants to use. He deserves to ride in all of those for the amount of awesome work that he's done.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, and you and I both agree this, we know it's an amazing team of people at Project Veritas. The journalists that actually get these undercover videos are incredible. And this is in no way trying to berate the great work that they've done. And if they're smart, they'll go with James in his next endeavor. So we're not minimizing the amazing work PV has done, but going forward, we're just saying nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore. They only care about what James O'Keefe puts out.
So true. So true. Okay, last one. Quote, I'm so confused how James left or was forced out if you keep repeating that he founded the company and founded PV.
Yeah.
Right. That was my instinctual reaction when this first broke early this month. I said, how can you boot out the founder? One of the whistleblowers sent me the article, and that was my text back to him. I was like, how can the founder of an organization be kicked out of his own organization? But apparently this happens quite often. Apparently Steve Jobs dealt with this.
Oh, and most recently, Dr. Simone Gold of America's Frontline Doctors.
She was booted out of America's Frontline Doctors?
The board, who she trusted, and this is how I knew, like, my spidey senses were up when this was going down, because I literally just got done doing a deep dive into everything that happened with Dr. Simone Gold and America's Frontline Doctors. She trusted a guy. He became her friend. She appointed him to the board. And within a year, he convinced her to step down from her position as president. And because she loves the organization, she thought, okay, that's a good idea because I'm facing jail time for giving a medical freedom speech in the Capitol. And even though it's unheard of for an attorney and a lawyer to have to serve 60 days in federal prison for a misdemeanor, have you ever heard of that in your life? No. While she's in jail, this board member becomes busy about taking over the company. And she gets out of jail and she's like, wait a second. All this money started going out the window. And she tried to deal with it privately with him and say, you need to just leave because I know what you're doing. And instead of leaving and, having his tail between his legs and saying, yeah, like I was caught red-handed stealing money. No, he went to media and he accused her of doing what he was doing. And what happens in this scenario? It's horrible because the American people are trusting these great organizations that are freedom fighting, truth-seeking organizations. America's Frontline Doctors has done so many good things for people over the last 3 years. Project Veritas, so many great things. And what has happened? These leaders and the founders of these organizations are being targeted and removed from their position of authority.
It's crazy how much infighting is going on. I don't like it.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
just want everyone to get along. And I know that it happens someone had me on their podcast this week and was like, what's up with like the suspicious amount of infighting and like self-destruction within the independent journalism community right now? And the right-wing media, like Crowder versus Blaze, and I guess stuff is going down with Tim Pool. Love Tim. But I said, it happens in the mainstream media too. Are we going to act like CNN's drama didn't just happen? CNN is in a horrendous place right now. So it happens everywhere. It's been happening at ABC with the Good Morning America.
Yeah.
There's always some drama, but I don't like to see it happen. We got a super chat. Thank you, Ray, for the donation. We appreciate all the support of my independent YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. April keeps it so real that she got kicked off of YouTube, you guys. I have linked her Rumble down below. Rumble is the wave of the future. I can't wait for everyone to switch over to Rumble. I have a Rumble channel as well.
Yes.
My Rumble does not monetize right now. That is why I'm primarily on YouTube, because
why doesn't it monetize?
Rumble throws me a couple of cents.
No, I know. Same.
I can't survive off of 10 cents per week.
Exactly.
On YouTube, I'm actually making a living. I would love to be able to monetize Rumble. Now, the advertisers will move to Rumble if the viewers move to Rumble. So the more you guys watch mine and April's Rumbles, the better. Like I said, I've linked April Moss's Rumble channel down in my description. My Rumble channel is also down in my description. More and more this year, actually, I have had Rumble videos get more views than YouTube videos. I love to see it. If that trend continues, my advertisers are going to switch over to Rumble, and then the truth wins from there.
Well,
no more
great.
freaking code words. I preach the truth on YouTube anyways. I just use code words, but I hate the freaking code words. I know you guys do too.
You were way more strategic than I was. I know. I was just like, I need to get the information out. In fact, I think it was the interview where you joined my show that got me officially, because we were talking about the I word.
Oh, you should have told me to use code words.
No, because here's the thing. I just didn't even have time to deal with it. I was just like, we're getting this information out. But yeah, Rumble's great because nothing is censored. So
yeah, I'm all about the truth, and you have to play sneaky games to get the truth out on YouTube these days. And I'm up for these weird games. If it means truth wins, I'll play your weird games. I'll circumvent the bots with some code words. We got another super chat. Thank you, Cassandra. Quote, respect both of you ladies. I suspect there is an awful lot of projection by certain people at PV. Absolutely. I think so.
Yeah.
So here's what I was going to say with YouTube. I am having to play so many games with YouTube right now to continue to have my channel on here. And I always want to cover what you guys want to hear. And a lot of times it's not what YouTube wants you to hear. So my YouTube is getting throttled a lot. I appreciate your support on here. The other day, YouTube sent me a notice. Like I go onto the YouTube app on my phone and there's this banner saying, please tell us your race and your sexual orientation, Ivory. We need to know. I'm like, oh boy. And I start filling it out. It's really lengthy, but they really want to know what team I bat for sexually.
It's so invasive.
Like, what exactly? I'm like,
and so offensive.
How does this play into me getting the truth, my viewer? You need to know, whether I kiss a boy or a girl at night.
I think honestly, we know the answer here. If if you lie and say you're part of the other crowd, maybe they'll increase your like viewers or something like that.
Girl,
honestly,
let me tell you, I'm about the, you want to play some games? I'm an Aquarius. We're about the mind games. All right. So here's what I did. I'm very straight, but I listed myself as gay. I said, okay, YouTube, you want my sexual orientation? Gay.
Did you get more?
I knew. And that week, a video went viral, girl. A video.
So there's the trick. So
I had a YouTube video randomly.
You should
go
probably
viral.
say that you're black too.
Girl, you finished it for me. So they wanted my race. I listed myself as black.
Which is crazy. Like they can see your skin color.
Yeah, but it's all bots. It's not like reality.
Wow.
It's not humans checking this stuff. It's all bots. So they, obviously humans created this form for me to fill out, but then the bots collect it all and categorize YouTube influencers. And so I was categorized under Team Black, Team Gay. I listed myself as gay and black. That was to survive on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the culture we're in right now. And, I love all the races. I have a very diverse group of friends, and I love all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, right now,
it doesn't pay to be white or straight.
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, there's a lot of discrimination in pop culture and mainstream media against white or straight people, and there's a lot of backlash for me saying that, but there is a growing discrimination. There's growing support, for if you're black or if you are gay or if you're transgender, which I love support for everyone. Can we just support everyone for being themselves?
Like, why do we even have to have
I
these
love to see
checkboxes?
black people supported, but I love to see white people supported. I love to see gay people supported and transgender, but I love to see straight people supported too. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't, so I had to play their game.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, so that
in.
week my channel did really well, and then I continued to cover the topics that YouTube didn't like, and then my views went back down.
That's like my Instagram. I'm like, oh, I have a whole bunch of followers. They must have lifted something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they put me back down again.
Girl, with Instagram is so obnoxious.
Yeah.
Every other month they're like, do you want to monetize with us? Monetize with us. And then I monetize for a week or two, and they're like, your monetization is stripped. You screwed up, Ivory.
They took away my swipe up feature like a year ago, and I've never gotten it back. I can never get it back, apparently. You can't talk to anyone. Like, you try to file a grievance, so you don't get anywhere with anybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, my main Instagram is still right now on the verge of deletion, which is, I have a lot of followers on there. If it happens, it's really going to suck. But they've been giving me so many strikes on Instagram. I'm really concerned right now. So I do have a backup Instagram now that's been growing, ivory.news. Ivory.news on Instagram is my backup channel, just in case I get wiped off the face of the earth. By the way, shout out to my BitChute followers. I've got a growing audience over there. Ooh, those guys are underground, man. BitChute, do not check the comment section. That is that is not PC.
Oh no. That's how I feel about Gab. I had to get off of Gab.
Really? It was too
this is like, woo.
It's like you can see everyone who's deleted from YouTube for their comment section on YouTube. You can see what they were commenting now on BitChute, and it's pretty crazy. But
uncensored videos on there.
Yeah. I'm for free speech, period. Let people show their true colors. On BitChute, they get to show their true colors, and you get to decide as a free person whether you want to hang with that person or not.
Nope.
So that's what I love. With that being said, thank you so much to April Moss for joining my show. Links to her Instagram and her Rumble down in my description. April, you got something big coming up tomorrow. What's going on? Will YouTube allow you to talk about it?
Yes. So tomorrow, if you're in the Houston area, there's going to be a great, awesome medical freedom event. We're going to be talking about all of the victims and their family members who have been impacted by the deadly hospital protocols and remdesivir. And there's going to be great doctors there. I'm going to be speaking and sharing. Victims are going to be coming and showing what happened to their loved one in the hospital and how they passed away. It's tragic what's going on. And I do have a documentary that will be released this year, hopefully this spring, on all of that, which is really going to be showcasing, and knowledge is power. So if we know what they're doing and you can put a plan in place for your family members to be safe, then we don't have to be scared.
I'm so glad you're doing that documentary. That is one of the heaviest topics I have encountered whenever I have covered this or received emails from people affected by this. It ruins my entire day. It's so heavy. It's so evil.
Yeah.
What happened to some of these patients in the pandemic. And it is one of the biggest stories that still needs to be highlighted. I'm really glad you're working on this documentary.
Yeah. And for anybody listening right now, if you have a loved one who was killed in the hospital due to their protocols where they are just following orders, and your loved one was put on remdesivir, please contact me, info@aprilmosstv.com. We have a team of lawyers that are mobilizing across the country to help you.
Wow, good.
Yep. So contact me.
Well, we talk about bots operating YouTube and not actually knowing my race. It's incredible to look at the hospitals and that the doctors and nurses started to operate like bots, not distinguishing between a patient's actual needs, but saying, I am now a programmed bot by the federal government's protocol, and government says that I need to give this to the patient regardless of what the patient is, what's actually going on.
Or regardless of what they know to be true.
Right.
Right?
Like I no longer have a brain. I'm a programmed bot operating fully in fear.
Yep.
Shame on you guys. I hope everyone builds a backbone, and this never happens again.
Yeah.
It was really evil how many people died unnecessarily in the hospitals in 2020 and 2021.
And what we're going to be revealing in the documentary is that these were pieces of legislation that were put into place years before COVID even hit that allowed this to happen.
Wow.
And so we really need to alert the attorney generals and governors to stop federal funding of hospital systems, because it's basically the federal government having their handcuffs on doctors, and also these hospital administrators are guilty of the deaths of thousands of people for allowing these protocols within their hospitals. But it all ties back to the amount of money that they were getting from the government if they can have someone test positive for COVID and then have them begin to go into their regimen, their protocol, instead of giving them safe and effective early treatments.
Well, thanks for what you're doing, April Moss. Definitely follow her Instagram and Rumble down in my description so that you can get the update when that documentary comes out.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Cheers. To truth and truth bombs.